Hi, I'm Brian. Are you checking your CrashPlan backups, but see that the completed percentage never reaches 100%? Does the history log keep saying that it is unable to back up some files? It's probably nothing to worry about, but let's talk about what could be causing this and what you can do about it. When CrashPlan runs a backup, it works through its to-do list of files that have been updated and need to be backed up. It attempts to back up every file on that list before marking the backup session as complete. Sometimes, though, when it attempts to back up a file, it cannot do so. When this happens, you'll see the percentage complete remain below 100%, since there are still files in the to-do list. CrashPlan will attempt to back up those files in its next backup period, and will continue to do so until they are successfully backed up, or no longer exist within the file selection. Each backup session that reaches the end of its to-do list will put a note in the history log file saying, "Backup completed." If it says backup stopped, it didn't get to the end of its to-do list. When it completes the list but has not successfully backed up all the files in it, the completed will be followed by a message that says, "Unable to back up X files." X, in this case, is the number of files that were not backed up. Let's talk about why these files might not back up, and then we'll look at how to address the issue. When CrashPlan goes to back up a file on its to-do list, it sometimes cannot get a usable copy of it. CrashPlan will ask the OS to give it a copy, but sometimes that fails as well. This can happen if the file is continually held open by the program that creates and manages it, as is sometimes the case with database files. CrashPlan can also fail to get a file because it does not have the right permissions to do so. There are a number of reasons why this might be. For instance, in Windows, CrashPlan generally runs as system, so files that do not give system access permissions will be unable to be backed up. Additionally, files encrypted by Windows EFS, or encrypting file system, are encrypted on the user level. CrashPlan could see them, but be unable to unlock them to back them up. When you see the unable to back up files message in the history log, you may want to investigate what files weren't backed up to determine how to proceed. To do this, we'll look at the backup_files.log.0 file. Looking at this file, you'll see a record of every file CrashPlan has tried to back up. If the line starts with an I, then the file was successfully backed up. In some cases, though, the line will start with a W. This indicates that the file was unable to be backed up. If you look at this log and see that each time backup ends, the same files are listed as not backing up, then you know which files you need to address. What you do about it will depend on what those files are and whether you can determine why they aren't backing up. Some files might be things that you don't care about backing up and wouldn't choose to restore. In that case, you could simply remove them from your file selection. If, however, they appear to be files that you would want to back up and restore, you'll need to figure out why they cannot be backed up and resolve the issue. As I mentioned, this could be due to having incorrect permissions, and you would need to ensure that they were given the necessary ones. If the file appears to be some sort of database file or other file that is constantly held open, you may need to tell the program that manages the file to create snapshots or backups of the file so that you can then back those up instead. How you do this will vary depending on the product that is managing those files, so you may need to check the documentation for that program to see how to make a snapshot. If you cannot do that, then another option would be to have a time when CrashPlan is allowed to back up that the program that manages the files is not running. This would allow CrashPlan to get a copy of the file in a resting state when it isn't being held open. What you choose to do will depend on the files that aren't backing up, but there should be a workable solution for anything that you find in this state. You can find articles for each OS that provide further information about this topic, including specific things that may cause it, on our support site. They're titled Unable to Back Up Files, and there are separate versions for Linux, macOS, and Windows. You now know how to diagnose and respond to CrashPlan being unable to back up files. If you have further questions or you need some assistance with this, please contact our support team. We're always happy to help.